All right, SARS, check in when you can. Everyone needs to SAR up. Am I like lagging? Hold on. Let me just free up some resources. I think I need to close some shit. Man, my computer is like lagging like fucking hell right now. Trying to close some windows. I don't know if that'll help, but hold on. I need to. You know what? I just need to fucking hold on. Sorry, I'm gonna have to. I need to restart my fucking shit. Not the whole computer. Don't worry about it. Yeah, force quit that one. We need to free up some resources. We have not enough resources. Sup, Tucker Tarleson? Thanks for checking in. Let me just restart my fucking Google because it was not really. Yeah. See, now my resources are back. I really should have gotten. I really should have gotten more RAM, I think, on this bad boy. It's not really like... God damn it. Everything's fucking lagging. Alright, sorry. But everyone just check in. Thank you, Cocker Tarleson, for checking in. Everyone just needs to do that while I fix my stream. I'm just going to put that on ESPN. Sorry, everyone. I'm quickly trying to make this more enjoyable. I always try to make things enjoyable, you know what I mean? Enjoyable person. I like things to enjoy. And then this one, I need my chat box. There we go. All right. Wait, did I freeze? How's the stream, Cucker? Or how is it now? Why is it lagging so much? Is it okay now? How's the stream now? Leave it to the Asian guy to have terrible technical support. Why is this not showing that? All right, hold on. I gotta fucking... I'm so tilted right now. Why is... Oh my god, I'm fucking pissed. There we go. All right, I'm gonna do something. We're in white light night, or white light now. I got my cool white light. Yeah, my lighting's not off now, is it, bitch? I got my soft shit going. Thank you, Steve. My aura is out of control right now. Wait, why is it so fucking... I feel like the delay between the stream and myself is like way too long. Why is this fucking... Alright, whatever. It's fine. All right, everyone, how's it going? We're doing good today. Just gonna wait for a few more people to file in before getting into it. But I guess today for me, got a haircut from my Vietnamese hairstylist, I guess. Um, we were talking about cars actually. I didn't know that he had a Z4. It's pretty cool. But we kind of talked because my sister gave me her BMW 2015, and I'm not really a car guy, to be honest. But once I got that car, I don't know, I was just kind of like, all right, this is kind of cool. Let me see let me see if I can add some cool shit to it. So I bought these interior LED lights. I'm trying to install these exterior LED lights, but I'm not really like it's kind of difficult because there's some sort of fuse box I have to go to instead of a battery because the battery's in the back, and then I gotta figure out how to do it. Yeah, who's got the keys to my Beamer? I mean, I did check the Kelly Blue Book, and I don't think it's worth much more than 10 grand itself, since it is a 10-year-old BMW, and as some of you may know, German cars are not really known for their longevity. But yes, I wanted the Fast and Furious look. I wanted to be like doot 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 doot. But also like, back in the 1990s and the early 2000s, I think everyone who went to a Korean church knew that Koreans were very obsessed with BMW. Wasn't even like Benz or other German cars. It was like all about BMW for Koreans. Big part of that was because of that Moreshige Korean drama, I think in the late 90s, where An Jae-uk drove that Z3 Roadster. What's a M2 competition? Is that a small sports car? That's right, Cucker Tarlson. We're all about Fast and Furious on this channel. We're all about proletarian modding your car. Okay, we don't care about fucking bougie ass Beamer owners being like, oh, that's so unclassy. Why would you ever do that to your car? Well, shut the fuck up. All right, I do whatever I want because that's what I fucking want to do. With all these fucking forums being like, oh, why would you ever do that to your BMW? Oh, what's up, holy cow? Thank you for checking in. Everyone like and SAR up when you can. But yeah, no, I mean, I still don't really drive that often. Past 2 years, I've been using mostly my scooter, and I actually used my scooter today because the place that I was going to, UCLA campus, it's hard to find good parking. So it's actually convenient to go on campus with the scooter because you don't have to find parking with that. But yeah, nowadays, now with this, it's not like this super fancy car. It's like a 328i. It's not like crazy or anything, but it is kind of like the lowest rung on the sports car ladder, I guess. Thank you for checking in, BM. Doogie Hauser. But yeah, so I've just been kind of like looking at mods, not just the lights. I got like this camera. I got this the fucking dash camera that goes onto your window or mirror. I also got some whatever. My brother-in-law had already installed CarPlay, so that's cool. I already got that installed, and yeah, just trying to make it look however I want to make it look. I'm not really like all about like, oh, I need to get like these spoilers and make it performance whatever, and like I need to like fucking race around or anything. I'm not doing anything that is going to make it actually faster or furious, or I just wanted to make it look cool because why not? we're all gonna die soon anyway. No, just kidding. Anyway, what else? Yeah, so today I also went to UCLA. We're trying to recruit for the party, as always. We've only got you our party is small, and we are looking for some aggressive expansion. And I think the Kirk incident is definitely a good touch point, especially for college campuses, because everyone who's under the age of 30 probably already knows who Charlie Kirk is, even before the shooting. So that's much more relevant of a touch point for younger students. And to that, we already saw, we actually saw, I think, this Christian group, this quote unquote Christian group that was all like making this Charlie Kirk memorial thing, I think. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure, but they were trying to attack us for being communists. So that was fun. But no, we expected that. The only downside is we didn't get it on tape. We want to kind of like get these things on tape, right? No, I don't. I never would want to be the Asian Kirk. That's retarded. Yeah, I'm never gonna be a shill for, the Zionists. So that's never happening. Anyhow, it was also interesting because there was this Republican guy. It was funny because he was telling. So he's 24. He was fairly young, and I kind of asked him like, because he knew about Nick Fuentes, and he was saying, like, everyone his age that's like a genuine conservative and like is not, a groiper. I guess they all think the groipers are like incel weirdos. So it's interesting to note that. I think, yeah, the groipers are just kind of grasping at straws right now. I think they are kind of a little discombobulated because they're not sure exactly what line of thinking to follow anymore. Because their leader is just going to leave them in the lurch, and it's so obvious to everyone who's not a groiper. But I think it's just all these very impressionable young men who, unfortunately, Nick is probably smarter than the average person. It's probably like, I would say Nick Fuentes is like top 5% in terms of intelligence in America. And, that's not really a high bar. I consider myself higher than that. But 5%, top 5%, or, especially in the political arena, you can fool a lot of people. You can get people to follow you. You can say enough insightful things where it sounds like you're smart and you know what you're talking about. And then you just kind of like slip in a little thing here and there and hope they don't notice until, someone like the Communist Party points it out. And yeah, but it was interesting to see that kind of like that Republican kind of confirm my theory that they probably weren't as big as they like to pretend that they are. A lot of that, generational run, blah blah blah. That's like kind of like they're hyping themselves up. It's like, part of the Nazi propaganda, for example. Even any sort of like fledgling party that's kind of small, you're kind of like, you want to puff yourself up to look bigger than you actually are. And that's what I think a lot of the groypers are trying to do right now, to make it seem like, yeah, we're winning and all these establishment people are following us now and we made it to the bigger stage, etc., etc. This is our moment. But I don't think that they realize that, yeah, there might be a lot of, imbecilic, like, people in their basements like them, but the vast majority of normal people out in the real world, they think that they're weird. And so that's why I don't think they'll ever have mass broad appeal. But I don't know. Who knows, I guess. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this country will turn into a Nick Fuentes Groiper thing, I just won't be here to see that if that happens, because if I even like get a whiff of like that being a possibility, I'm just like getting the fuck out. Like I don't even care anymore. Like, you know, I'm always like, oh, you know, I'm just gonna be like, you know what, mom and dad, it's been fun, but if you don't want to come with me, then that's fine. I'm getting the fuck out though. Because that is just like, it's just so obvious the country's turning into like retarded land. And that's kind of like, Grok was just sold to USA government for 42 cents. What do you mean 42 cents? What the fuck does that mean? That's just like a nonsensical thing. But yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too, right? Like, say Charlie Kirk never died, right? Say Charlie Kirk never was assassinated, and they try to pass all these fucking things all at once, right? All these like free speech denying rules. It's ironic, right? Like Charlie Kirk was all about free speech, and here you have the federal government using Charlie Kirk's death to squelch everyone. And then you have like Israel just murdering people, obviously, because now there's no journalists in Gaza, so nobody can report. So everyone thinks that nothing's happening, but they're actually just murdering people at a higher rate because nobody can report on their satanic goings-ons. And so, man, it was funny because on campus we were actually kind of assaulted. Well, not assaulted, but verbally assaulted by these like that Republican or that Christ is King group. Wait, did I already say that? Basically, there was this like group that was, you know, they had posters like Christ is King and whatever, but they were all like Christian Zionists. They were like, oh, we have to protect Israel's sovereignty. I was like, oh my God, you guys are fucking rubes. You guys are fucking idiots. Why would I leave the country? DSS 7859. I mean, are you Asian? Do you know what living in fucking America as an Asian man is like? It's fucking terrible. Why would I subject myself to such retardation when I could just go to China where everything is faster, more convenient, more shit at my fingertips? And guess what? They actually like Asian. They actually like Korean people there. Due to the Hallyu wave, they actually think Korean men are hot. So there is absolutely no reason for me personally in my financial situation, since I do have a little bit of money, to stay in America. The only reason I'm here is because of my parents, as I've said many times on stream before. Who the fuck is Professor Jang? I don't know who that is. Government already had control of AI and Grok and fucking Elon. Elon is the government's bitch. Why are you saying this as if like fucking no one already isn't the government's bitch? Like, this is like so whatever. I don't care about this fucking retarded nonsense. Like, I already know. The CIA just controls everything. Who the fuck cares? It was already scary. I told you this 4 or 5 years ago. And you're like, ugh. So, you know. Mom, Dad, I'm leaving, but Nick Fuentes will take care of you now. Exactly. Nick Fuentes will take care of you. I have a feeling by that point, if Nick Fuentes is near any sort of lever of power, I would probably just kidnap my parents and be like, you know what, I don't care. You don't have a choice here. This is fascism right now. I'm black bagging my own parents, deporting them myself to South Korea. I'll get the ICE agents to deport my parents. Be like, oh yeah, they're immigrants. They need to be. Can you imagine that? That'd be funny. Yeah, I don't know who Jang is. Is that the guy who like has all these crazy conspiracy theories and shit? When did I You know what? This guy seems like a fucking retard. So, uh, I. All right. So that's my policy. In case you were wondering, DSS 7859. I don't tolerate retarded people who just chime in for the first time, asking questions about what I'm talking about. You either fucking listen and shut the fuck up, or you get the fuck out. And so, goodbye. Anyway, why don't my parents want to leave? Well, first of all, they've been here for 43, 45, 4 years, I guess. And yeah, they've been here for 43 years. Like, it's mostly my mom. My mom's got, all of her church friends and all of her church community, all the Korean church people, blah, 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 whatever. Is he the one that kind of like, he speaks in English, he's on YouTube, and he talks about like the satanic rituals or whatever of Israel, and kind of like going into more of the esoteric shit? Yeah. So, yeah. I don't fucking care about, like, that's the thing. Like, people say, oh, why are you talking about Nick Fuentes? It's like, I don't fucking care about Nick Fuentes, to be honest. The only reason I talk about Nick Fuentes is because he fucking talks shit about the ACP, and he talks shit about how we were responsible for what happened to Charlie Kirk. And so, yeah, we're gonna fucking hit you fucking right back, you fucking guys. What, you think we're just gonna be like, oh, we're not gonna talk about Nick Fuentes, just, fucking slandering it? Fuck you, fucking groypers. Fucking groyper piece of shit. I know who you are, DSS 7859. You're fucking groyper fucking shit. I don't love Nick. What are you talking about? How do I love Nick? He's a Zionist. He's a Nazi Zionist. I've been saying this fucking forever. They've been working together, Matt. They have been working together. Read this book, Matt Kim. When you read this book, everything will become clear. The Zionists and the Nazis have been working together ever since the Nazis came to power. 1933. They've been fucking working together, Matt Kim. This is what the plan is. He was a double agent for Zionism the entire fucking time. Yeah, that is the Matt Kim, I think. Because, like, the stuff I've been finding out in this, like, I'm not even, like, I'm only, like, chapter 8, okay? I'm, like, not even halfway through. I'm, like, almost halfway. And every step of the way, I just see fucking Zionist collaboration with Nazis. Like, every fucking page. They basically wanted the Holocaust to happen because they knew they were going to benefit from it. What they did in the beginning, in the early 1900s, they provided all the self-hating anti-Semitic rhetoric that the Nazis used. They knew that if there was enough anti-Semitism, that they could use that as leverage to build Israel. Matt Kim is my hyung. He's very based. He's not a communist, but he is, well, you can click on his name. I'm sure you can find out a lot about him. How do I get the attention span to read books? Well, I am on the spectrum, so I can't help you with that. Maybe if you take enough Tylenol, you can also get autism powers as well. Don't quote me on that. It's not medically proven, but it seems to be the way to go. Acetaminophen. If you take enough acetaminophen, you can get autism powers. That's what I've been told. But other than that, I've got nothing for you, Ray Kazu. I don't know exactly. Actually, what's funny is Matt Kim is the one that really inspired me to do my own stream. So, because, like, for the first few kind of things, I had podcast episodes, but that was with another partner. So like, I was dependent on a partner for that. And then I was making my video essays. And then after, the first fucking time I was booted off KTSC, I actually had Matt Kim on my KTSC episode. That's kind of like how we connected. He actually was following. Funny thing is, Matt Kim was actually following me before I had the idea of bringing on Matt Kim, because I saw Matt Kim on Instagram. And I was like, oh, we should bring this guy on. And, Mike had already heard of him. So we were like, yeah, bring him on. And so when I went to Twitter, because like I had a little more influence on Twitter, I actually reached out to Matt Kim. And then I noticed he was already following me. I was like, oh, cool. And then I DM'd him or whatever. And he was like, hey, like, come on to this thing. And we can, we can talk on the thing. And, yeah, we had him on the KTSC show, and then when I was booted off KTSC the first time, Matt kind of gave me the idea of being like, you know what, you should just fucking do it. And I was like, yeah, I should. And that's why I'm doing it. A lot of it has to do with Matt Kim. I mean, I didn't do it initially because, like, a month later, Ed kind of asked me to come back on to KTSC, so I was like, all right, fine. I guess I'll do that again. And then the second time, that's when I was like, all right, this is fucking bullshit, nonsense, and I should do what Matt Hyung told me to do. And, yeah, so hopefully I do want to go to Atlanta at some point. I don't know if you checked your instant or your messages, Matt, but I did text you. Yeah, I guess, like, I was thinking maybe Thanksgiving or whatever, if you have time. But I was going to travel anyway. But yeah, just let me know what time works for you. But yeah, Matt's a very down to earth, very cool guy. And he is one of the only like big Republic or right leaning influencers, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, that still is talking about they who must not be named, right? They who must not be named. Who else? Like, nobody, everyone else is fucking. That's what I'm talking about. Like, on the left side, you knew who was a fake when 10/7 happened. When 10/7 happened, you know who the fakes were because they were rooting for Israel. They were 100% on Israel's side. There was no fucking, like, questioning the narrative at all. And so you knew those leftists were fucking scum. And on the right, the ones who were scum on the right are the ones who said, oh, Epstein's fine. Whatever. I don't care about Epstein anymore. Oh, JFK? Oh, that too. That's fine. Oh, Charlie Kirk? Yeah. The leftists killed them, obviously. And, oh, yeah, this ICE raid, even though they just killed 3 migrants, yeah. Those people are the fake rightists. So Matt Kim is a real one. He does not subscribe to Fall For It Again awards. Koreans do not, in general, fall for it again awards. Matt actually also, yes, we are. Well, we're talking more about Zionists, Matt. We're not. We don't quite go into all Jews are bad, but unfortunately, a lot of them are. A lot of them. Well, let me rephrase that. A lot of them support something that is bad, and I do believe that a lot of them are misinformed. Just like a lot of South Koreans, in my opinion, are misinformed about North Korea. We grew up our entire lives hating on North Korea because that was what we were told. We were told they were the evil commies. They were they're coming to get us, etc., etc. We kind of learned, obviously, but we're kind of the minority of Korean Americans. Same thing with Jewish Americans. Like, they've been told their entire lives, oh, Israel is needed because if we don't have Israel, another Holocaust is going to happen. They kind of ate that shit up. And, I think the younger Jewish Americans are sort of being like, yeah, especially Gen Z, they're like, yeah, it's a lot of bullshit I'm smelling. So we're seeing a lot of Gen Z Jewish Americans more called out. And you got your Tony Greensteins. He was the son of an Orthodox rabbi, but the biggest thing is that he's a Marxist-Leninist. He's a British Jewish guy who's a Marxist-Leninist. He was actually kicked out of the Labour Party for being anti-Semitic. Can you believe that? An Orthodox rabbi's son was kicked out of the Labour Party in England for being anti-Semitic. So you can see how anti-Zionist he probably is. But yeah, that was I think I mentioned this on Twitter. But for example, during the 1933, when the Nazis came to power, right, they enforced, or they didn't enforce, but there was a lot of hate crimes that were going against Jewish Germans at the time, because, you know, the Nazis came to power and the SA thugs were out in the open, just like kind of like beating up Jews and shit and whatever. And so as a response, the entire world made a Jewish boycott, or a boycott on Nazi Germany because of that, what was going on. So the Zionists, they actually didn't like this, because they were like, no, we need to get more Jews into fucking Israel. So how do we help the Nazis kick out the Jews so we get them? Oh, I know. We're going to use this boycott event and say, like, you know what? We're going to stop the boycott because we're going to negotiate now with these Nazis with the Havara Agreement. But before the Havara Agreement, if you were a Jewish person and you wanted to leave Germany, you actually got to keep a third of your wealth. You know, the Nazis took 2/3, but you did get to keep a third. Under this new plan, if you were to go into Israel from Nazi Germany, you would get everything taken from you. You would be given £1,000 only, and that would be how you would resettle into fucking Palestine, which wasn't even developed, you know, at that point, right? So it's like a terrible proposition for anyone escaping. Well, obviously not if you knew it was going to happen. Nobody knew it was going to happen in 6-7 years. But if you knew what was happening, if you didn't know what was happening, which most people didn't, it was a terrible proposition, because you'd basically go bankrupt if you went to fucking Israel. But if you feared for your lives and you knew what was coming, then it was a good deal, because now you're alive. But at the time, it was just kind of like, well, you're just going to go bankrupt if you leave. And so now, and the deal was, once that Jewish person comes, the Germans would buy German, or the Zionists would use that money to buy German goods. That's how the boycott would have been subverted. So that's, from the Nazis' perspective, they're being helped by the Zionists, because now they're forcing their people out and spending their entire life savings on German goods that the Zionists would take. And guess what Germans were making at the time? They were making fucking war materials, right? This was fucking war economy. And so all their fucking goods that they bought from Nazi Germany were weapons. And guess what they used that weapons for in 1948? So they were just fucking saving up all those weapons from Nazi Germany to do their own fucking Holocaust 15 years later. So that's how you, yeah. So I guess, yes, Matt Kim, I am talking about the Jews. I'm talking about a specific subset of fucking Zionist scum that pretended, not only that, the other big thing I've learned, and I'm still learning shit. All right, that's the Havara Agreement, right? The other shit I'm learning is that the Holocaust kind of starts in 1941 during Operation Barbarossa, because at that point, the Nazi brass decide, hey, we're gonna not only kill Jews, we're gonna clear a lot of Slavs, Poles, whatever. And we're just gonna fucking, what the Wehrmacht was gonna do, they were gonna, you know, defeat all the Soviet forces. And once the Wehrmacht were fighting the forces, now the civilians left behind, those were the SS Einsatzgruppen that were following right behind. They were mass shooting civilians that were undesirable, right? And so this was happening in 1941 or to 1942. And so basically there was a report from a Soviet kind of like military, whatever. And they were just like, it was an internal report that wasn't like, that I guess allies obtained or something, or someone found it, or some Polish person found it or whatever. And it basically said there were reports of the fucking Holocaust. They were like reports of X amount of Jews being executed, et cetera, from the fucking Operation Barbarossa. And so by 1942, there were reports coming to the Allies to not only, to the Allies, to the federal governments, to people in the American government and the British government knew since 1942. But the thing is, the Zionists were the ones saying that's Soviet propaganda. That's Soviet exaggeration. They're exaggerating these numbers. It's not a thing. The Nazis would never do that, etc., etc. They fucking covered for the fucking Nazis. Because the thing is, if the Americans and the British were sure that the Holocaust was happening, and the Zionists took them to task to do something about it, they could have bombed those railways to Auschwitz. They could have bombed all those railways to Auschwitz in 1942, 1943, because the bulk of the deaths occurred in 1944 when the Nazis realized, oh, we're going to fucking get killed. We got to get rid of the evidence, right? The human evidence. So they fucking just killed them all in 1944. They could have saved a ton of those lives if they had bombed those railways, but they didn't, right? Because of fucking Zionists. Because the Zionists knew. Not only that, think about it from the Zionist perspective. All the Jews in Nazi territory that they were killing, they were in Poland, right? 3 million in Poland, and around 2 to 3 million in the Soviet Union as well. Maybe a little less, maybe like 2 million in Soviet Union, but there were 3 million in Poland, 2 million in Soviet Union. And so the Zionists knew, oh, those are the poor Jews. Those are the Jews that don't have money or influence. Those are the Jews that might actually be more communist leaning, more leftist leaning, more people who would protest against Zionism. Because the thing is, at the time, only 4 to 5% of the Jewish community supported Zionism because they knew their religion back then, and they said, that's not what our religion is about. But it was mainly the bourgeois German Jewish community that started Zionism, that were aided by, American and British Jews, because once they kind of like saw what was going on, they, Lord Balfour and the Rothschild, they kind of like coordinated, okay, the rich Jew, what the fuck is going on? The rich Jews, God, am I getting fucking Mossaded right now again? This is fucking crazy, right? I'm just like, as soon as I actually talk about actual like history or like information, I like the fucking camera goes crazy. It's insane. Anyway, I never saw Schindler's List actually, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. But yeah, so essentially, from the Zionist Jews' perspective, think about this. Oh, God. God damn it. There we go. Yeah, I said the juice too many times. Probably gonna get kicked off of YouTube soon, right? Anyway, yeah, when you think about it from the Zionist perspective, they saw those Soviet and Polish Jews as leftist sacrifices for their cause. Because not only that, like when the boycott happened, right? Boycott against Germany, and then they did the Havar Agreement. After the Havar Agreement and a bunch of Jews came after that, what happened was a lot of Zionists were actually openly praising Hitler. They were like, oh, Hitler's our guy. Yeah, Hitler. Like, thank you for bringing those Jews over, or for being anti-Semitic and forcing those Jews to realize their Jewish nature and come to Israel, right? Because at the time, too, most people didn't consider Jews to be a race. That was more of like a 19th century invention by German by some of the German aristocracy and by some of the German whatever, but also German Jews who were future Zionists. They also bought into that shit too. So they were actually like the boba liberals. They were like the German Jews of the late 19th century were the boba liberals at the time. They just wanted to be white. They wanted to be German. But they realized, or they thought, anti-Semitism is a way of life for Germany. We're never going to work together, so we need our own Aryan nation or our own Jewish nation, right? To basically be the Germany in fucking whatever. Because they actually did try, like, Germans did try that. Aryans did try that, I get right? There was Nietzsche's sister's, or Nietzsche's brother-in-law, I forgot his name, Forster. But he literally tried to start an Aryan colony in Paraguay. And so the idea was already there, like, of starting an Aryan colony. So the German Jews were thinking, we're going to start our own Aryan Jewish colony in fucking Israel. And the way they sold it to the British, they were like, hey, we'll be your outpost in Israel. So you can keep, taking all the fucking oil and shit you want from Iran and Iraq that's next door. And so we'll be your watchdogs. So that was what was actually happening during the Holocaust. They knew, and not only that, they realized from the boycott thing, hey, if we sell out our own people, that helps Israel. That helps Zionism. So you can see where the logic was. It was like, hey, if we rip off our own people to take them in, Israel benefits. How else can we benefit? Oh, I know. If we just let these leftist commie Jews that are opponents anyway, we hate them because they oppose Zionism. So why don't we just let that happen? Let it go on. And then immediately after, they say, oh, we were fighting the Holocaust the entire time. And at the time, there were Jews who were like, no, you didn't. You didn't do shit. You guys were fucking... The most disgusting thing is this author. So the reason he wrote this was a story he heard, like when he was young, about the Holocaust. One of the stories he heard was during the 1930s, before the Holocaust, right? There was a ship that with a bunch of Jewish refugees that was coming to America and that was turned away. It's a very commonly known story, and the only difference was, what most people don't know is that, well, everyone knows that the ship was turned away, and a lot of those people eventually died during the Holocaust, which is terrible, right? And it makes America look bad. But the thing most people don't know is that petitioning for them to be sent back, that was due to fucking Zionist influence. That is the fucking disgusting part. Because they wanted, well, they didn't know. I don't know if they knew the Holocaust was going to happen. I don't even know if the Nazis kind of knew the Holocaust was happening, at least in the beginning. I think they somewhat finalized their Holocaust plans probably before Operation Barbarossa. But it wasn't really like, oh, we're only going to kill Jews. It's like, we're also going to kill a lot of Slavs. Like Himmler's plan was like 87%, 90% of Slavs were going to be killed too. So it wasn't like they were just going to focus on the Jews. It's just they didn't get to the Slavs, right? They were the Jews there, so they were like, all right, we're going to kill you. They killed a bunch of Russian soldiers and POWs. So there you go. They were not going to just stop at just killing Jews, even though that's what ended up happening mostly, for the most part. But there was also, proportionally, there was actually more deaths for, proportionally, Gypsies had a higher rate of genocide, because there was only 2 million, I think, Gypsies in Europe. And at the end of the Holocaust, there were only 500,000. So that's a 75% drawdown, whereas 6 million out of what did they say, 18, I guess, at the time? You know, that's a 1/3. You know, not saying either is good or whatever, but when you're talking proportionately, I think the gypsies had it a little bit worse, right? And so Andres Lang, my beef with the far right is that they're fucking Nazis that are collaborating with Zionists. Have you not been listening to this entire fucking conversation? God. All right. One more comment like that, I'm banning you. So you're on thin ice, Andres Lang. All right. I'm just fucking whatever. I'm over it. I'm over everything. I'm just over everything right now, you know? I really just want to go to red pilafing. Take it easy. Take it easy. You are red pilafing. What does that mean? I don't know. What am I saying? What is the topic I put up? I didn't even think I was going to talk this much. I almost didn't like stream because I was like, do I have anything to talk about? I guess I do have stuff to talk about. I'm talking about my research. You know, I'm still reading. I guess I haven't fucking been writing I need to write, but I it's just like, so there's a section in this where Marx is like, or Engels is frustrated at Marx because when he's on an assignment to write something, what ends up happening is he's doing the research, and that research takes him into like 100 different rabbit holes, and then he ends up taking like 10 times the amount of time he planned on writing the thing because there's so many other details he wants to add because he's reading all this shit. And I was like, oh, that's like me for real. I just I just fucking want to read more. Is that not a common thing? Do people just not want to just know as much information as possible? I guess it's like a unusual characteristic. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I just my defining core characteristic is just hating being lied to. Hating being lied to and wanting to find out the truth no matter where it takes me. And I think because of that, I'm just like, whenever I get into an argument with someone and I feel like I lost, what I'll do is I will consider every single angle my opponent could possibly take, find every single book that goes into every single angle, and then read every single book so that next time I'll have 20,000 different counters to whatever argument they could possibly make. So I guess that's my sort of, yeah. Oh, David Tay, now you want to move to Vietnam? I told you. You should travel with me to China. Just check it out for 1 second. You'll be like, holy shit. You know, apparently it's such a high trust society. You know what people do there now? They're like, let's say you're coming home from work, right? And because Shanghai is a walkable city, you're just walking down the city, you know, the beautiful city, peaceful city where very little crime happens because it's China. And they aren't degenerate lumpen pearl scum on the street. You're just walking down the street and you're like, hey, you know, when I walk home, I think I want to have Chick-fil-A. So you know what? Before I go home, gonna be like, you know what? I want Chick-fil-A right outside my door or right outside my apartment. When I come back, like hot and fresh. And then when they get there, so you just walk over with a bunch of fucking food. You just pick yours and then you take it. And nobody fucking steals that shit. That is how communism works. Communism is just fucking superior because you get all the fucking guesswork out of some fucking scum shit somebody else is going to do to you. And you just hand it over to the government. The government takes care of that. Communism is just fucking better. It prevents people from fucking you over. Like, now they have, you know what else they have? They have like, those fucking bullet train things. So they stop every now and then, right? So what you can do, apparently now, they have this delivery service where you order for the next stop because you're going so fucking fast. Like, it's only going to take you 10 minutes to go like 50 miles. I don't even know. I'm probably getting the math wrong here. But it probably only takes you like 15 miles to go like 15 minutes to go like 50 or 100 miles. Probably. I don't know. You're probably, 60 miles an hour is a minute. Let's say you're going 300 miles an hour, right? So that's 5 miles per minute. And then so, in 15 minutes, that's 75 miles. So 75 miles away, you're like, you know what? I want Chick-fil-A on the train. So what they'll do is they'll order this Chick-fil-A on the next stop, have it ready for you, and there's people that fucking bring that shit to you. That's fucking... I know there's no Chick-fil-A in David. I'm just using a fucking example. God. It's just Vietnam, I think. Vietnam is better if you're younger, I think, because Ho Chi Minh City just feels like a very young city and energetic too. And there's a lot of industry going on. It's very exciting, I think. Probably not. I mean, whatever. Maybe. I don't know. Chick-fil-A is... You know what? I'm going to look that up. I'm going to look that shit up right now. Is there a Chick in China? No, there isn't a Chick-fil-A in mainland China, though they have announced plans for a significant international expansion into the Asian market, with the first restaurant opening in Singapore in late 2025. So they're not even in Asia at all. So I guess Singapore is their first... Wait, why is Asian movement laughing so hard? Ha 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 ha. There's KFC in China. It's so much better. Yeah, I had Shake Shack in Singapore once. And I was like, did they get these ingredients? Wait, fuck you. No. Somebody is fucking controlling my fucking shit. Because this should freeze it. Anyway. God. I mean, if they're keeping with their corporate structure, I'm assuming they're not going to open on Sundays. Because that's like a company-wide thing. And this branding thing, too. I'm sure they're... If people got wind that they open on Sundays in China, they would be like, "Oh, fuck all the fucking Christians in America." Would be like, "Ah, fuck Chick-fil-A. They're heathen communists." But yeah, I had Shake Shack in Singapore once, and I was like, "Is it? Do they source their ingredients from the Garden of Eden?" Because it was just like 100 times better than any Shake Shack I've ever had in America. And I've had... And Shake Shack, first of all, and David Tay will tell you, when Shake Shack first came out, the Madison Square Park, I was living in New York City. I would get at least once a week. I was probably a line item on their quarterly report in the early goings. Like, quarter one, they'd see Doug Kim, $500 spent on Shake Shack this quarter, But yeah. You know what? I don't care if they, maybe it's Mossad, maybe it's CIA. You know what? Whatever. I think I'm too small fry for them to take out, but like I said before, if ever I die in a mysterious circumstances, unless the 3 notarized suicide note is in play, it was the CIA. But yes, no matter who kills me, even if there's another Korean person, even if it's another whatever, they're patsy, 100%. Yeah. It was better than that one, David Tay. So when I went to fucking New York City And when they started expanding, even before they went public, when they started expanding, I would go to every one when it opened just to see, just to be my own, just to be their own quality control. Be like, that one's not good. That one's pretty good, but you should avoid that one, you know? I would actually fucking go to every single Shake Shack. So when I say to you that Singapore had the best Shake Shack I've ever had, trust me, it is 100% is just like, it's like fucking, yeah. I have a picture with Jewish CEO Danny Meyer for the Shake Shack 10th anniversary in 2014. I didn't know he was doing it. I just had a shirt on, my Vamonos Pest shirt on. But I took a picture with Danny Meyer because I loved Shake Shack that much. But yeah. Anyway, all this to say, China's advanced. We're literally barbarians in America right now. I don't think there's any question in my mind that China will surpass America. The only way China does not surpass America is if America decides to bad manner and nuclear waste the entire human race off the face of the earth, because it is so bad manner and can't stand the Asian man actually being the leaders of humanity. And, you know, I don't assign that as non-zero. I don't think that's a non-zero possibility. I think there's enough, you know, racist, white, retarded people who value just being on top more than their own well-being. You know? And we saw that. We saw that because at the end of the Civil War, there were a bunch of white people who just killed themselves because they lost. Because they knew, oh, great, now we're not on top anymore. Now these blacks, these uppity blacks that are going to be freed are going to be on our same level. So I might as well just off myself. You know, you have the stupid amount of people doing that. Guess what? You know, the Nazis, when they were losing, they weren't all like, oh, yeah, maybe we should make a deal. Maybe we should try to make... I mean, Himmler tried to make a deal. Didn't really go well. And Goering probably thought he could make a deal, but, you know, he was definitely too high up for a deal to be made. Eichmann thought he got away and made a deal, but Mossad took him out because they... Probably because he knew a little bit too much about their collaboration. That's the thing, too. You see that Mossad took out Eichmann, right? But why didn't Mossad take out every single Nazi collaborator? Why didn't he take out the NATO ones? Why didn't he take out the Operation Paperclip? They knew, Mossad was connected with the CIA. And the CIA was in charge of Operation Paperclip. So Mossad knew where the Nazis were being buried, right? But they only took out Eichmann. You know, Mr. Spielberg made a very specific... Well, that was about Palestinian terrorists, right, in Munich. But, you know, that was about IDF people taking out enemies, right? And they only captured Adolf Eichmann, I think. I might be off. But the point of the matter is there were a lot of Nazis that they knew where they were, and they left those alone, but they specifically chose Eichmann. So for me, I'm going to research this guy and figure out why. Because now I got a new lead. I'm like a historical detective. That's what I am. I'm fucking the Sherlock Holmes of history, of Western history. Eichmann was missing one letter in his name that could have won the meme war, starting with K in the front. Huh? No, Eichmann was spelled with an E-I-C-H, I think, or something like that. Anyway, I'll research that. I'll figure it out. But some funny business is going on. And, I don't know. Whatever. But yes, I did title this... What did I title this episode? The Iron is Hot. So that's what I'm saying. So basically in this, when I went to UCLA, that's kind of like what I felt. You know, we did go to UCLA a few months ago, and it was over the summer, and it was kind of like we ran into a bunch of libs, and it was kind of annoying because libs were being libs, and you know, UCLA unfortunately has a lot of libtard, petty bourgeois, whatever. But I do think because of the Kirk assassination, now people are like, you know what? Something's going on that I can't quite explain, but I feel like something's not. I don't feel like the government is telling me the truth here. And you see that. I think Turning Point USA, for example, I think they're already making their big university push. They're already going to like places like University of Berkeley, which is a super libtard, super rad lib campus, right? So if Turning Point USA is thinking this is an opportunity to go to college campuses like UC Berkeley, then I think it almost like behooves us to also go to these college campuses to recruit, because I think one of the people that came up to us was a Filipino guy. He was first year, so he was fresh out of high school onto campus. He actually heard of us. He actually heard of the ACP online. So when he saw our table, he was like, "Oh, I was actually curious. I want to know more, blah blah blah." So we kind of told him about the party, whatever. So I was like, "Oh, cool! Like, people, now that we have a decent presence online, people are actually looking for us on college campuses." Like, he was just like, "Oh shit, they're here," obviously that we ran into another Republican who was kind of like not exactly pro Groyper, but like somewhat like, okay, he's got some interesting points, but he was like also like, yeah, he's bullshitting about Israel. He was kind of like more interested in what we had to say. He didn't, obviously he was more trying to say, you should just become Republican, and we were like, you should just become communist. We were both kind of like recruit the other in a sense, but it was a good conversation. And like, she talked to me for like 2.5 hours. He was a half Cuban, half Mexican, so I already kind of knew it was going to be an uphill battle. I also kind of shared that my grandfather came from North Korea and left because in 1945, and so I kind of, and he was kind of like, yeah, exactly. So why are you a communist? Well, I look at all the angles, and I look at history, and I look at whatever. And so I'm not saying he's going to be a convert or anything anytime soon, but it was like interesting to see even like conservatives be like, because he had actually seen other sorts of communists in the past, like DSA, PSL. He would actually say stuff about those people that we would agree with. We're like, yeah, those are, exactly, QFK. Berkeley is Antifa, right? So if even Turning Point USA thinks there's a chance to recruit like from an Antifa fucking campus, then we need to be fucking striking the iron, because the iron is fucking hot, and we need to be going on this thing. So I think me and this guy, another cadre, was doing the tabling. We're going to try to make it a more regular thing, just so we're on campus. I think it was good too that the semester seemed to be just starting. Maybe it started a few weeks ago, but like being on campus after that was also good. And to be honest, we didn't even do much sloganing. People came up to us. We just had, literature out, pamphlets out. We didn't even do like stuff like, hey, blah, blah, blah. People just came to us. So I can almost sense things are somewhat. I went today, QFK. I went with well, I don't want to say his name. I went with another cadre. You know who he is. But we're going to try to plan to do this every so often. It wasn't for the Kirk thing. It was just kind of like there was another group that was there that I think it was like I think they were like a Christian Zionist group or some shit. They came towards the end of our shift, so we didn't get into it with them that much, but they did try to shout at us and disrupt our stuff and whatever, but that's fine. That's going to happen. I also had a conversation with a Yang Ganger, which was interesting. I thought those had died out, but I guess he was still believed in the cause. And then, I can't really fault him for that because I was a Yang Ganger at some point. I kind of try to share our views, so hopefully he'll come to the same conclusion. But if not, but I think it's good to just be a touch point, be available, because I think people are looking for answers. People right now, even people. So I've been, obviously been pretty crazy on social media for the past 5 years. And on Twitter, it's kind of fine because everyone's crazy on Twitter. But on Instagram, you'll just read the report later. I already kind of talked about it a little bit. I don't want to share too much because it is kind of internal. So I don't want to share too many details that don't need to be shared to public. So just read the report. But anyway, yeah, I think, like, for example, I'm so crazy, but like I do post some stuff on my Instagram, and I have gotten better at like figuring out, okay, what's crazy for Twitter that might not be so good for Instagram. All right, let's not maybe forego all the gay and retarded posts that I make. Don't post those. Don't post gay and retarded. But the more academic sounding tweets that I make, or I will put a retard in there every now and then. But it is more kind of measured on Instagram. But even like some people who probably thought I was crazy for the longest time did start to be like, you know what? You might be onto something here. You might be I don't know about this Kirk thing. Obviously these are more intelligent people than not. I'm not talking about libtards because, well, me. I don't suffer fools. Like even before communism, like I think most people are somewhat intimidated by me, and sometimes sometimes I feel bad because sometimes maybe I do go a little too far, and maybe I am a little hurtful sometimes, maybe a little bit gratuitously so at some points. I'll do a self-crit. I'm a little I'm an acquired taste. Let's just say that. And I'm aware. I'm aware how I come across, and part of it is on purpose because I am doing multiple things at once, in a meta way. I understand kind of like the way Asian men are perceived in general, and part of the reason I put on this kind of like mask or cape and cowl, so to speak, is to kind of be like, hey, we can be just as racist and aggressive and politically incorrect and offensive as any motherfucker. I can, if you want to be offensive to me, trust me, I can think of ways to be even more offensive back. So that's kind of like where I'm at, because for the longest time, Asian guys have been just like shat on and railroaded and be like, whatever. I'm like, all right, you gonna play like that? I'm gonna fucking. So I realize I can go overboard sometimes, and sometimes that makes me seem intimidating, especially if you're retarded. Sorry, most people are retarded, so I guess I am intimidating to most people. I just kind of say, you know what? The definition for mental retardation is 70 IQ, right? That's the medical definition. So that's 30 points under standard deviation. And I don't want to say my IQ score out loud, but let's just say I am more than that for most of the population. So you know, the shoe fits, right? I'm just calling a shoe. The way I see it. Is Michael Kim dead? I don't know, but KTSG sure is. Yo. So why do you hate KTSC that much? I'm curious. What's the lore behind your KTSC hatred? Is it just because they booted me, or is it something else? It's kind of hilarious though. Never stop. Actually, I was kind of like, do we need to talk about them anymore? But it is kind of funny to have the KTSC report. Because, you know, it's just funny. I guess, like, I'm not going to say I don't talk shit, because I do. That's what I do, right? I talk a lot of shit. So that reminds me of the other podcast that the other guest that KTSC brought on for its second to last failed episode. But apparently he thinks that you need an entire podcast episode to know why Taiwanese people hate themselves. That just was fucking hilarious to me. Hey, why do Taiwanese people not identify with Chinese identity? Oh, yeah. I don't know. Have you ever heard of the concept of gusanos? They just want to be fucking white. It's not complicated. And you know what else I found out? So I was doing research on Unit 731, right? Unit 731, that movie, Evil Unbound, that I reviewed last time. That movie is not playing in Japan, obviously. But guess where else in all of Asia it's not playing? It's playing in Australia. It's playing in New Zealand. It's playing in China, obviously. It's even playing in South Korea. That's interesting. South Korea's also playing it in November. So you got Australia, New Zealand, Anglo countries. You've got China, South Korea, right? The vassal state. You know, you got all these countries playing it, but guess which province of China is not playing this movie? That's right, Taiwan. Now, why wouldn't they play a movie about Japanese war crimes that happened to their own people? That they were presumably, fighting against, right? The KMT were presumably against the Japanese, were they not? So, yeah. Even in South Korea, they were playing that. But in Taiwan, they decided, we love Japs. And guess what? Guess who the people who wanted to be honorary Aryans for over 100 years are? Guess who they are? They're the fucking Japs. So when you ask me, hey, why are the Taiwanese not identify with their Chinese identity? I'm like, bro, you really needed a fucking hour to explain that? I'm just kind of like, come on. Even if I was on your side, I'd be like, what are you doing, man? This is stupid. This is fucking retarded, bro. What is this going to do? Oh my god. So yes, I was annoyed at first because I don't like to harp on things that I feel like I've already won. But sometimes, you know what? Sometimes it's fun to take victory laps, is it not? I mean, I feel like I kind of already did, D. Wallace. What else do you want to know specifically? I feel like I've told that story already. Who's more cucked, Taiwanese or Hong Cuckers? I would actually say Hong Cuckers are more... Well, it's tough because Taiwanese people, like I said before, they sort of gravitate towards... What the fuck is going on? Taiwanese people, they kind of gravitate towards Jap culture because they were literally colonized by the Japs since 1895. And so they have Jap shit going on in their minds. The other thing too is that Japanese colonization of Taiwan was not as harsh as Japanese colonization of Manchuria or Korea. So they sort of had benevolent Japs, I guess, in the beginning, because in 1895 they weren't as crazy. It really wasn't until a little bit later in like the 1910s, 1920s, when all the Meiji kind of people kind of died out because they're old, and it was like the newer generation of psychos that were coming to power, so they became even fucking more crazy. So the Taiwanese are, you know, kind of like mentally colonized by Jap shit, but also obviously American liberalism. But Hong Kong, they're colonized by English shit. So they're like basically Chinese Jeets, you know, because that's what India is. They're like mentally colonized by British imperialism. So they think, oh, when we were part of the Indian Raj, we were part of this great British Empire. It's the same fucking shit with these fucking Chinese Jeets, these Hong Kuckers. They're the same fucking pieces of shit that don't realize that white people, once they're done with you, you're a used like fucking, you know, fucking Marsha Blackburn, fucking Marco Rubio, fucking Tom Cotton, all these Republican senators they were sucking dicks off of. Once the 2019 umbrella movement, or whatever that shit was over, once they arrested Joshua Wong and fucking Nathan Law, or exiled Nathan Law, those senators moved on. They're like, oh, whatever, it's over. And you still have these fucking retarded chinks, Hong Kuckers, being like, why are you doing this to us? We were so good to you, America. We were so good to England. Shut the fuck up. Fucking. And the fucking Indian Jeets are saying the same shit too. Like, oh, shut the fuck up. Fucking Jeets. Jeet scum. And when I say Jeet, I don't just mean Indian people as a whole. I mean cucked people to capitalist interests, like the British Empire, like the fucking Southeast Asian Filipinos, Amboys. They're Jeets, right? The fucking Korean American Republicans, they're Jeets. Fucking Gusanos are all Jeets. Gusanos are basically all Jeets. They all have Jeet mentality. They're like, hey, how can I suck white dick more to get more money? That's the Jeet mentality. Let me suck white dick for more white money. That is what a Jeet is. A Jeet is just that. But of course, it's the only pretty much banned word on Twitter. So of course, we know how many H-1Bs go to Jeets for over at Twitter. That's for sure. Tinks are thankful to the Japs for modernizing Taiwan. Yeah, that's retarded. The fucking Taiwanese. They don't. You know what? You know what? What's funny is like when Zhang Yu says something like, "Oh yeah, the mainlanders. They all know that Taiwan, is controlled by the government. They understand. They love the Taiwanese people, and the same thing with Taiwanese people. They know that their government is whatever, and they actually love China. They all love China, and Taiwanese people in general are like pro China and whatever. And I'm just kind of like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? I went to fucking festival. I went to EDC last year, right? And I met this Chinese national there. He didn't speak that much English, but he spoke a little bit. But we were just like, we were talking whatever, because it was kind of his first time in America, and so he was like, and it was EDC, so it was like fucking, it was crazy. But then we got talking about like some edgelord shit that was going on in China. And he was saying, some of the jokes we make about Taiwan, we're like, you know what? Maybe we should just nuke it and get it over with. I was like, what? That's even more edgelord than what I think. And it's just kind of like, holy shit, the Chinese, obviously it's not, they're not serious, right? It's just like edgelord joking. But the sentiment is there. The mainlanders know that for the longest fucking time, Taiwanese people were LARPing as whites. They just fucking wanted to be, just like Zionists wanted, the Jews, Germany wanted to be white. Just like the Cubans in fucking Cuba, because they were Spanish or whatever, they wanted to be white, I'm sure. Just exactly the same thing in fucking Taiwan. That's why they LARP all the fucking WMA of Taiwanese American women. They're all fucking liberals. They all have like fucking, one is the mayor of fucking Boston, okay? One's the mayor of Boston. Andrew Yang's Taiwanese American. Fucking Mitch McConnell's wife was in the fucking cabinet for being, WMAF. Amy Chua, the fucking wife, or, she was Brett Kavanaugh's like dick sucker or like madame, I guess. She was fucking WMAF. I don't think she was Taiwanese though. But she was Chinese American, right? All these fucking Taiwanese American scum buckets. And you're telling me the Taiwanese people the entire time were really pro-China. I'm like, fuck you. You are such a fucking and the funny thing is, Zhang Yu always is like, "Oh, I hate those people who are like, oh, now you like China? Now you like China? Well, where were you before? Where were you before when I was getting bullied and I needed a Korean American terrorist to make me feel good about myself?" Where were you guys? Where were you? And then the next breath, he just like, all these fucking Taiwanese scum that were fucking anti-China for the longest time, now that they come back because China's obviously technologically advanced and they're not retarded like Ukraine and know that, hey, maybe we should just like reunite with them anyway. It's no big deal. The only reason they're doing that is because they see material interests. And Zhang Yu is like welcoming them with open arms. Oh, you're coming back to the fold. Oh, thank you. You know why? Because they have an influence and whatever. Because they were anti-China for the longest time. So they acquired their fucking influence by being anti-China. But because they have that influence, Zhang Yu is like, oh, because you're talking to me now. Now, the savior of fucking Taiwan and China. Now it's okay. You're fine. I don't care that you were an anti-China shill for your entire life. I'm just going to, use you for my own fucking, whatever. But this random person on TikTok that said that, like Xi Jinping's march made her feel proud of being Chinese for the first time ever. Fuck that bitch for not, realizing it, even though she's probably Gen X and like old as fuck and didn't know any better when she was like a kid. But these people that that helped me, oh, they're great. They're fine. They're fine. Rubio is Cuban. Marco Rubio is a Jeet. Exactly. Marco Rubio is a Jeet. Every Taiwanese American is a fucking Jeet. Let's be fucking real here. Like, almost every Taiwanese American. I besides Zhang Yu, like, who's actually pro-China, I guess, I have not met a Taiwanese American who is pro-China. I'm sorry. That doesn't fucking exist. At least before 2020, no. That did not fucking exist. They were all fucking Gusano fucks. You know what they said all the time? I'm not Chinese. I'm Taiwanese. That's what they fucking said all the time. They have organizations, Taiwanese American Foundation, TAF. That's who the Taiwanese Americans are. So, whatever bullshit he's trying to feed, I'm just kind of like, what the fuck is that? That is fucking bullshit. You know where boba liberal comes from? It comes from fucking boba. Do you know what fucking boba comes from? And do you know what the word for boba comes from? That's the interesting shit that comes from the degenerate shit that they get from Japan. You know what boba means? It means breasts. They literally called their drink after fucking tits. That's how fucking retarded it all is. I hate fucking boba. I fucking hate boba. Why would I? This fucking squishy ball. It's gross. And then now they're tits. Apparently, it's fucking crazy. Like, let's be fucking real for one fucking second. The one Asian place that wanted to be white the most, Hong Kong, they wanted to be British white, and Taiwan, they wanted to be American Jap white, because a lot of them watched anime. let's just get that out of the way. Yeah. And guess who, you know, remember Taiwanese American Teen Sheng? Yeah, guess what his father did. His father was a literal CIA agent. And that's who Zhang Yu pals around with. So, of course, a Taiwanese American who's, you know, said that out loud proudly, by the way. It wasn't like he was like, oh, man, my dad was a CIA agent. That kind of sucked. No. He kind of said that shit pretty proudly. Albeit it was before, you know, 2018 or whatever. But he said that shit. And, yeah. I am spitting boba. Well, I guess I'm spilling the tea. I don't know, D. Wallace. Am I giving a good job spilling tea right now? Because I feel like I'm spilling a lot right now. Unless you want to know anything else. Let's see. Fun fact, a bunch of Groiper accounts actually got booted after they shat on Elon, vowing to bring in these Indian H1Bs. You good Korean boy, more soccer credit for you. Hong Kongers try to set up, blah, blah, blah. Thoughts on Laos? I mean, I don't have too many thoughts on Laos. I don't know too much because I don't know too much about them. It is something I do want to research. It's just, well, you can see my current queue. The stuff that I'm reading right now, besides Karl Marx's biography, it's very good by Franz Mehring. Definitely check it out. It's also on Marxist.org if you don't want to pay. So it is free on Marxist.org. Definitely check this out. I like this because it's not just a straight up biography. It also talks about his revolutionary activity and the philosophy and the stuff that was going on during the time. So it is kind of like very informative, not only about Karl Marx's life, but about like the history of Germany and Europe during the time. So that's why I like this. Obviously I shared this before. This is basically the Holocaust industry on steroids. This is like the next level of Norm Finkelstein's book. Like, Norm Finkelstein, he's kind of a lib. He's kind of a little bit of a lib. But this is like Marxist-Leninist Norm Finkelstein. And then I'm reading this. I already read the third volume, which was about, I think it was right from like Voltaire to Wagner. So that was actually pretty interesting. But this is kind of like about the more modern Nazi movement from Wagner, after Wagner, to the Nazis, obviously. So this is kind of like I'm doing research on anti-Semitism, and I'm doing research on Zionism, right? I'm doing research on fucking every angle of Nazism, Marxism, and Zionism at the same time. Because I had just finished a German philosophy kind of textbook. After that, I'll probably read. I already got like Q for the next 3 too. You know, like 2 books from Lacerdo. There's War and Revolution. I've already read like 3 or 4 books by Lacerdo. I think he's the greatest Marxist philosopher in the 21st century. Definitely check him out. Definitely check out the Stalin biography by Lacerdo if you're interested about Stalin. I don't think Norm Finkelstein is Maoist, but maybe. Who knows? This is Western Marxism. This was Lacerdo's last book ever. And it kind of talks about what I talk about. It basically says... Well, I don't know. I haven't read the whole thing, but what I a lot of what I heard it says is basically like, yeah, Asians do Marxism. Western Marxists do not do that. They just are retarded. Because like Lacerdo is very pro-China. Lacerdo and Arrighi, the two Italian Marxists I follow or love. Arrighi is more of an economist, so I and Lacerdo is more of a philosopher. So I like them both, but Arrighi also is very pro-China as well. I feel like Italian Marxists, maybe because they were the start of capitalism, right? Because the Italian city-states started capitalism first. Maybe they have the most knowledge of how it works, and so they trace the economic base going back to China. Arrighi predicted that China would be the new economic base in the 1990s. Like he already kind of saw that coming. So I really like those authors. And the last book, I'm actually kind of excited to read this one. It's actually pretty modern, even though it looks old. But it was written in 2005. But I think this is the first book I've seen that is an English language positive biography of Lenin. I read Lenin's wife's memoirs. They're okay, but I feel like they're just kind of like snippets of his life. You know, they're kind of like, here's what Lenin was like as a person. And that was interesting. I'm not going to say that I didn't like reading it, but I think this is going to be more political and more like about what was actually going on historically, kind of like the Karl Marx biography. So I'm excited to read that one. So I've got a shit ton of stuff to read, QFK. Laos is going to be way, I even got even more books on fucking Japan that I have to get through. I haven't even got through all my fucking Chinese books. Like I have I have Vietnam War book I want to read. There's a Deng Xiaoping and a Mao Zedong biographies. Both I want to read. There's 2 Mao biographies I want to read. Sorry, I'm just nerding out right now. But there's also a textbook on the colonial empire I'm going to read. But yeah, Norman Finkelstein voice is like nails on chalkboard. I can't even do his voice. How does he talk again? Those crocodile tears. You're crying your crocodile tears. I don't my entire house. You can't do it. I'm sorry. I need to practice that one. But Operation Yellowbird. What's Operation Yellowbird? Oh yeah, dude, Andrew, I have so much shit to watch, or not to read. Maybe if I go to China and I should probably download the entire thing so I can watch it on the plane. That's what I'm here for, holy cow. If you check my Twitter, I don't doubt that Finkelstein is spitting. I did like Holocaust Industry. That's for sure. I think it's valuable. The stuff in it valuable. I also have his book on Gaza that I'm going to read. To be honest, QFK, I don't really have a strategy. It's more I read stuff for research, and sometimes a detail interests me so much that I go on fucking abooks.com or whatever to find obscure shit on that topic so I can read more about it. But I guess daily what I'll do is, and I should probably change this a little bit, but let's say I want to read Capital, right? And so this was 3 years ago when I started reading Capital. I already knew it was gonna, it's a fucking tough read. So what I did was for anything huge like that, I just said to myself, let me just commit to 10 pages a day. If I could just do 10 pages a day, I'll be done with this in 140 days, because it was 1,400 pages. I think it took me a little longer than 140 days because I probably took breaks in between volumes and stuff like that. Probably took me around a year, to be honest. But like it was just like 8 to 10 pages a day. And even that 8 to 10 pages for Capital took me an and a half. But once I got through Capital, you almost have this like sense of accomplishment. But not only that, like once you understand Capital and whatever, and you've read that, because it's so dense and like philosophical already, it becomes a little easier to read dense and philosophical heavy or more abstract texts. Um, like, I read Critique of Pure Reason in the same manner. That too was a slog. I only probably read like 10 to 15 pages a day as well for that, maybe even less. Because the pages that I got were super dense. They were even denser than the actual thing. So, I pursue the same strategy, and then same strategy with Phenomenology of Spirit. Just that took me about a month and a half, I think. So you could see that, I'm somewhat getting faster. It still took me a long fucking time, and I use a lot of AI when I'm reading very abstract shit. If I don't understand something, I'll just ask AI, like, hey, what the fuck is he talking about here? And usually they'll give me some sense of things. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm kind of getting it. So AI has been a huge help. If I'm reading kind of just like regular stuff, like the history stuff, that's a little easier, right? Because it's just straight up information. That I will set more of like a chapter thing. I'll be like, let me just read one chapter a day for that. And that'll be like 20, 30 pages. And then, so for example, for these 3 books, I'll read a chapter of the history of anti-Semitism, and I'll read a chapter of Zionism during the Holocaust, and I'll read a chapter of whatever. And then that way, I'll usually be done with these 3 books in 2 weeks, since they kind of have around 14, 15 chapters. So 3 books, I'll read a chapter a day, and then in 2 weeks, I'll be finished with them, and then they'll be the next batch of... because I find myself somewhat ADHD, so I feel like, in the past, I used to be able to concentrate and focus and like be able to read whatever. But I feel like now that I'm older, I like this method better because after a chapter, I'm kind of like, all right, I'm kind of sick of this topic. Let me go on to this other thing. And so that's kind of like how I guess it's like multi-tabs. the book, having multi-tabs on my books. So that's kind of my strategy in reading. There's no set amount of pages. It's just kind of like how long does it take. And usually I'll read for like 4 to 5 hours a day, which I kind of need to probably taper down because I'm not spending as much time writing, especially my episodes. And unfortunately, reading, especially 4 to 5 hours, not only does it take that length of time, but I feel like it does take a lot of brain power during the day. And like after I'm done reading, I just don't feel like doing anything else that takes a lot of cognitive abilities. So I think I do need to possibly change my routine up a little bit. But that's the current routine that I have right now for my reading. Sorry, I feel like that was really boring for anyone who didn't interested in reading stuff. But that's the other thing too. I feel like in the age of the internet where everything is short form, everything is fucking TikTok, everything is fucking 10 seconds, that's how they control people. That's how they manipulate people. That's how they, because it's like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. And like your brain can't fucking even understand what's going on at that point because there's so much stimulus that's going into your fucking brain. The reason I like, not only do I like it physical because I'm old, but I like it because like, especially before the age of the internet, because that's when like people wrote shit in a different sort of era or a different sort of like mentality where like I feel like even books today are like trying to make it exciting on every page or whatever, and it just like feels like slop. And it's just kind of like understanding that good writing takes time. Good writing takes time, effort, and a lot of thought. And so, because back then, if you didn't have a good book, you wouldn't even get published. Nowadays, you could fucking self-publish any slop you want, right? But like back in the day, the standards were higher to get anything published. So like if somebody thought it was worth publishing, that means it probably has decent ideas in it. The other thing I kind of like use to choose what to read, I try to read stuff that happened historically in the time that it happened or soon afterwards. I mean, obviously there are things where, you know, now that there are more Soviet records and stuff like that, that you can write stuff that more fills out some details. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like just actual like events. And I feel like you get closer to the truth when you read stuff that's almost immediately afterwards, or at least like, and especially before World War II. Because I think after World War II, especially after Operation Mockingbird in the 1950s or 1960s? Anyway, after the 1960s, it's hard to believe anything, right? So you have to be a little bit more discerning in what you read. But I feel like before that era, you can almost take a lot of stuff at face value, especially before the 1950s. If it was before the 1950s, I feel like you could almost take anything that they write for face value, because at the time they didn't care about being politically incorrect. In the 1900s, no one cared about being seen as a white supremacist. People in Europe already assumed white supremacy was just true, because they were like, yeah, we rule the world now. We control everyone. So back in the 1900s, people were more truthful about their actual opinions because they had no fear of being canceled. People were saying the most anti-Semitic shit possible. That's why you had these German Zionists. Like, that's why they had such doomerism. That's why Theodor Herzl had such doomerism. The German Jews, they were just basically like, yeah, anti-Semitism is just like the sky is blue. It's never going to change. The Christians will always hate us for 1800, 1900 years. And so they did have this doomerism that was kind of understandable because people back then were a lot more open about hating Jewish people. It was pretty wild in Germany, let's just say in the 19th century. Shit that, and it's kind of funny too, because a lot of the shit they say about Jews in the 1900s in Germany, they say a lot of the same shit about Asians in the 20th and the 21st. And I'm like, yeah, this shit's just, it's the same. Basically, it's just, what had happened specifically in Germany is that, and this is what I read in volume 3, what happened in Germany is that before 1870, I don't know if a lot of you know German history, but there were two main German states. There was Prussia and Austria, and then there was the Holy Roman Empire, which was made up of a bunch of small little Germanic provinces or whatever, like very like small states. Like, you know how we're America, 50 states? They had even smaller ones. For the longest time. I think that kind of sort of was transitioning in 1815 when they became the second German Empire, I think. But I think Bismarck sort of united a bunch of those states into Prussia in 1870 when the Franco-Prussian War happened. So basically, for the longest time, you would have these princes in each of these German provinces or these German states. And each prince had what was known as a court Jew, who would kind of like, you know, because Jewish people were in the court of feudal, you know, aristocracies and all this stuff, they would manage a lot of the money. They would allow, you know, they would manage the treasury, they would manage whatever. They would manage a lot of bureaucratic shit too. And so each, because they were good at that shit, each, you know, I guess German prince had one of those things. But for the rest of the people, they would see this Jewish person kind of like lording over them, kind of being the tax collector, right? You all remember how tax collectors were seen in the New Testament, right? So they were basically seen as that. And, you know, because modernity, Germany was the last of the big imperialist states. Well, no, not Russia. Russia was also serf whatever, but in Tsar whatever and feudalist. So I guess they were second to last. But France had their revolution obviously in 1792, I believe. America had theirs in 1776. Britain had theirs in 1688. So they were kind of a little bit behind the eight ball on that. And so for the longest times, they more had these kind of court Jews lording over them. And then once that transition happened in 1870, soon afterwards, there was actually Great Depression in Europe that was going on. And so when they saw this crashes and like capitalism crashing, whatever, there was a lot of talk about like, in Germany during time, there was also this conversation of going on. It's like, is Christianity real? Like all these philosophers are saying maybe not, right? Kant and Hegel and Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, kind of like, talking about idealism, whatever. And then like the young Hegelians basically saying, God doesn't exist anymore. And so there's a lot of confusion going on in Germany. Be like, hey, is Christianity true? Well, maybe it's not true. Oh, maybe this fucking, maybe we came from Greek, Hyperborea. Maybe we came from Atlantis. Maybe we came from whatever. Like what is this Christianity, this corruption Christianity shit? So there's a lot of paranoia about like what was going on and like, oh wait, who created Christianity in the first place? Huh, it was the Jewish people, huh? Wait a second. We follow all these Jewish customs and Christian customs. And wait a second, who manages capitalism and who's responsible for all this capitalism not working well right now? Oh shit, it's these Jews, right? And so you can see kind of how it was easy for Richard Wagner and his group of proto-Nazis to kind of start this anti-Semitic movement even before Nazi Germany. Like this was like 50, 60 years before. And Richard Wagner is like Hitler's like idol. Like Hitler wanted to be Richard Wagner because Richard Wagner was everything Hitler was not. Richard Wagner was an artist who was respected for his art first and foremost. Even though he was like super anti-Semitic, whatever, people still were like, yeah, his shit is fire though. And Hitler wanted that more than anything else. He became Führer or whatever, but he wanted to be a respected artist before anything else. And like even Wagner, he started that vegetarianism shit because, Wagner was actually an acolyte of Arthur Schopenhauer, who was really, in my opinion, the beginning of all the fucking evil darkness in Germany. When you read Schopenhauer's philosophy, it's interesting because it's like all these German philosophers, I'm pretty sure they were on the spectrum. And so when Schopenhauer's talking, it's funny because like he writes in such a way where he's fucking like bashing everyone, but you're kind of like along for the ride. You're like, oh, this guy's got like, he would be the ultimate like rap battle person. If philosophy was a rap battle, he would be like the rap battle king, because like he also knows how to manipulate people psychologically. Like he kind of like created that shit. Like he came up with all these sort of like strategies, rhetorical strategies to win an argument, even if you knew your argument was false or whatever. And he would say he was doing that to point out other people who were using bad arguments. But I'm like, yeah, you're kind of probably do that yourself too. And I think he did. But it is entertaining to read. I'm not going to lie. Like when I read Will and Representation, I was like, yeah, this is a lot easier to read. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's still kind of difficult if you never experienced any sort of philosophy. It's still probably a lot more difficult than Nietzsche. Nietzsche's like, yeah, it's not really difficult to read. It's difficult to like really understand what he's getting at. When you do, you're just kind of like, yeah, this Nazi shit. But when you read Schopenhauer, it's a little difficult if you're not used to philosophy at all. But once you kind of get into the rhythm, you're kind of like, oh, okay, that's an interesting idea. I was like, music being the highest expression of art as the will, because it doesn't have any like verbal content. Oh, that's a really good idea. That's actually like interesting. And I'm just kind of like, wait a second. This led to Nazism, right? This led to all this mysticism in Germany. It's like, oh shit. I think he like tapped into some demonic fucking Pandora's box shit here. Because yeah, it is very compelling. He makes very compelling arguments about his system and or his transformation of the Kantian system. And I have to yet read his Paregla and so he wrote this other stuff that's more about essays about life and whatever. So I have to read more of that. That's where he gets more anti-Semitic. Apparently, he has like chapters on the Jews. But yeah, that was Hitler's actual favorite philosopher. So Schopenhauer was his favorite philosopher. Wagner was his favorite composer, who also wrote shit about Jews. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I guess I'm just like, yeah. End of the day, I guess I'm the Sherlock Holmes of history. I'm reconstructing dialectically the entire history of Nazism. And to identify it from its roots. Anyway, I feel like I've bored everyone enough with my jibber jabber. If anyone has any final questions or thoughts, I will take them now. Let's see my NGL. Let's see if anyone. What the fuck? Oh man, I got a new phone. So let me. Ugh, God. What? Damn it. Alright, well, I'm going to figure that out later. Does anyone else have a question? Why is everybody writing shit about juice? I mean, did you not see what happened in the past 2 years? What do you mean, why is everyone writing? Have you not seen what's going on in Gaza? What? Or did you mean back then, like at the time, or what are you talking about specifically? Holy cow! Oh, my iCloud is fucking full because I don't know. I take a lot of screenshots and whatever, and I don't delete them, and then I guess they got uploaded to the cloud, and it's filled my entire fucking box. I have to do some tech housekeeping at some point, but yeah. So I have all the apps, but I guess like the data's not there. I don't even fucking know. Oh, so in Germany is where the Reformation happened, right? You had Martin Luther in the 1500s putting his 93 theses on the door, being like, Catholicism is bullshit. It's all about, it's all scripture, going back to scripture, not any of this Pope shit, not any of this indulgence shit. So there was like the Catholic Church was generally, during the Middle Ages, they kind of like talked shit about the Jews all the time too. But that was less systemic because I think like, well, first of all, the land wasn't as developed, right, as it was in, modern Europe. So during medieval Europe, I guess like Jews sort of like, they didn't always, hang around. Sometimes they had their own kind of like areas. where they were separate from like some of these feudal places, or they had their own kind of stuff. But it really wasn't until like 1500. It's kind of like when imperialism started happening and capitalism starts to take off in Europe. And that's when for example, Catholic Pope, Pope Pius or whatever, they because of all the money that was coming into Italy and Rome, they were building all this shit, with gay men in Florence, ironically enough, about church stuff. They were making all this church, glory to God, right? But really, it was just like they were spending all this money to live large. And so because of that greed in the 1400s, they started thinking, hey, how can we get even more money? Oh, I know. We'll sell these tickets to heaven. So then they started doing that. And then Martin Luther was like, yo, this ain't what I signed up for. This shit's corrupt. And like kind of complains. He gets excommunicated, starts his own religion, or branch of Christianity, rather. Protestantism. They're protesting, right? Protestant. In the beginning, Luther was like, hey, Jews, you've been persecuted by the Catholics this entire time. And I get it, because they weren't following the actual scriptures. But now that we know the truth, and now that we're going by the scriptures, you should come to us. You should come over here and be Christian with us, now that you know the truth. And then the Jews were like, no, we're good. And then Martin Luther was like, we need to burn down every synagogue in existence. So you already had kind of like an anti-Semitic person who was leading the Reformation, this movement in Protestantism in Germany that was taking Germany by storm, right? It was a Reformation, counter-Reformation. But at the end of the day, a significant portion of German life became Protestant versus Catholic. And your guy, Martin Luther, is like, these Jews got to go. We need to burn down all their synagogues. We need to fuck them up, blah, blah, blah. And when the guy that you're following is saying all this shit, you start to maybe internalize a little of these. Yeah, Leibniz was pretty chill. I'll give Leibniz, he was pretty chill. He never really talked about Jewish people. Kant was also kind of chill. He was more kind of like, hey, maybe the Bible said so isn't such a great argument after all. He actually was kind of like, I feel like he was more deist than Christian. I don't know if you guys know what deism is. Why isn't this fucking locking? I feel like I'm getting hacked, so I'll probably end soon. But deism is basically what the founding fathers believed in, whatever. It was kind of like this Christian sect without Christianity. That's the easiest way I can describe it. It was like Christianity without Christ. That's kind of like deism in a nutshell. Like, Kant didn't believe in prayer. He didn't believe in any sort of like sacraments or anything. He thought that was just superstitious garbage. But his thing, he wasn't that against the Jews, I guess. But he was kind of like racist overall. But it was actually like people like Fichte, I think. He was pretty bad, based on what he read. Fichte was pretty bad. Probably butchering his name. Schopenhauer obviously was pretty bad. Schopenhauer hated Jews probably because, I mean, he was a merchant himself, or he was a son of a merchant's child himself. So he probably saw them as competition. Because at the time, in Germany, like I said before, Germany wasn't as developed capitalistically. So there was a lot more competition between Gentile and Jewish bankers back then because each one was jockeying for power. In England and France, the Jewish bankers there, especially in England, they had actually there was very little anti-Semitism in England because England was already pretty capitalist for the longest time, right? They had kind of like gotten their own Protestant Reformation with the Anglican shit, and they decided, yeah, we're capitalists now. We like money. So they didn't have any of the Christian sort of qualms against usury or anything like that. So they were kind of like cool with the Jews in Great Britain for the most part, at least compared to Germany. But in Schopenhauer's time, Germany was not as developed back then. They were still kind of like the Holy Roman Empire, right? So then he was competing against these Jewish bankers who were also kind of like jockeying for power while Germany was developing. So that's probably why Schopenhauer hated the Jews. Richard Wagner hated the Jews because I think there was this Meyerbeer guy who kind of helped him or whatever, but he ended up hating him or something because, like, I don't know, some sort of shit went wrong and he blamed the Jew, obviously, like with the finances. And I think it was also kind of like he hated on other Jewish composers as well because they're probably also competition. He just like wanted to, yeah. And the only reason Nietzsche is like super hating on the anti-Semites of Richard Wagner like people, I read this book recently that basically suggests that he saw what happened to Wagner's career after, he said all that shit about the Jews. He saw it getting wrecked by those Jews because they had a lot of influence. And Nietzsche was like, you know what? That shit's I don't subscribe to that shit no more. I want you guys to read my shit. So I'm gonna praise the Jews. I'm gonna see, oh yeah, they actually survived for so long. And sure enough, Nietzsche's work, well, it happened after his death, but Nietzsche's work was popularized not only by German Nazis, but Theodor Herzl in the late 1890s. He was inspired by Nietzsche. Because one of the things in Nietzsche is about whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Or the idea that on a personal level, as long as you don't die, you get stronger, right? Or even from like a species perspective, like as long as we have to sacrifice a few of these people, like they would bring up an example of like ants. Like, let's say a bunch of ant colonies, there's a bunch of ants, and you see this oncoming water stream that's about to kill all the ants. Apparently, what happens in nature is that some of these ants will realize this and then throw themselves against the water to like block it and die or whatever so that the rest of the colony can live, right? So they'll instinctively do that shit. So Theodor Herzl is reading this shit, right? And think about what I said about the Holocaust and Zionists before. Theodor Herzl is reading this shit and is like, you know what? Whatever doesn't kill you, or what doesn't kill the tribe, can make it stronger. So there you go. That's it for me today. Don't forget to tip your waiters, waitresses. I'll be on Sunday. It's been I've been yapping for long, so I'll do that. All right. Take care.